Welcome back to another episode of Absolutely Awesome. I'm your buddy John, and you can see I'm flying solo today. Don't worry, in the next couple of weeks, we will see Tom and Tim back, as I know they have interesting things to talk about this month's subject as well. Is that a thing now? Is that a thing? Are we doing month subjects? It kind of feels that way. Last month was all about UFOs, and well, now we're talking about more horror-related stuff. Ghosts, goblins, the paranormal. All things Fortean, if you will. So, my personal history with the paranormal literally goes back as far as I can remember. And now, that brings up an interesting point in itself, and that of memory, and how memory works, when even memory starts to work in itself. Most individuals that study this believe that real memory starts kicking in at about the age of 5. Sure, we have snippets before that. You know, we have snippets of things when we're 4. Most of the time, it's more of a snapshot tied in with some sort of emotion. But really, 5 is where a lot of the deep memories start forming. You're able to move from that point forward in your mind, so to speak, when you get older. And as far back as I can remember, literally, I have, as far as I know, as far as I can think, I have 2 memories predating 5, and that's it. And one of them is kind of what started me on all of this. The other one is a bumblebee scaring me. Me and my family were at Rockaway. Some friends of the family were hosting us and had us over, and a bumblebee scared me, and I jumped into my father's arms crying, and he was laughing. And 40 years later, going through an old photograph book, I found that picture of me in his arms, and he has this big grin on his face, just thinking it was the funniest thing in the world. And it's just a great memory for me. The other one, not so much, but it did set my life course, so to speak. Again, with my father, 4 years old, sitting on my father's lap. Oh, and I know that this was 4 because it was the old apartment. I've lived in the same building my whole life, but we only lived in the 1-bedroom, 3rd-floor apartment until I was 4 years old. At that point, we moved into this apartment that I'm still actually living in. And this room is an important part of the story coming up, actually. So I know that because this was the old apartment, and I was sitting in my father's lap, and he was reading me a Golden Book. Those little books for kids, the Golden Book series, and it was a Mickey Mouse book. And while I'm sitting on his lap and he's reading me his story, something catches my eyes, something catches my attention off to the side. And I turn and I look, and I see this white form coming down the hallway. And I scream. And my father's trying to calm me down, and I'm screaming that there's a ghost. There's a ghost. He's coming right here. There's a ghost coming at us, Dad. And he's telling me to calm down, relax. There's nothing there. I'm just imagining it. And I watch it, and it gets halfway down the hallway, and then all of a sudden it just goes through the wall. That was it. I saw it, and my father couldn't. Now, later, about a year later, because it was this apartment here, in this particular room, actually, my bed was right behind me, right where Grimmy is. My bed was up against the wall right here. And at the time, I had a German Shepherd named Champ. And Champ woke me up in the middle of the night, barking at that corner I'm looking at right now. He was barking right at that corner. His ears were back. When I woke up, his ears were back. His tail was tucked. He's on my bed. He's snarling and growling and looking right there in that corner. And when I look, I see a silhouette, a bust silhouette on the floor, like some shadow in the shape of a person was coming up out of the floor. And it only got so far as to the shoulders. That's what made it look like a bust. It was a silhouette because it was all dark. There was no images or anything on it. There was a valley and hill where the eyes and the nose would be, but no detail or anything. And I scream when I see it, and Champ is barking like mad, and it looks, its head turns, it moves, its head shape changed to the point that suggested to me that it turned. And when it saw us, or whatever the hell happened, it shot right up to the floor. My door opened up, my mother came running in, and boom, another one went shooting straight up. And my mom's trying to calm me down. And I tell her what happened, what I just saw. And she's telling me I was dreaming. It was just a nightmare. But I knew the dog woke me up barking at this. And those two things stuck with me. And for a while, I didn't know what to think other than maybe I was just crazy. I thought maybe I was just a crazy kid. And then I discovered In Search of all things, a television show with Leonard Nimoy. And this show made me realize that I'm not the only one that experienced something like this. And that made me feel better. Now, I was talking about memory at the beginning of this, and it's a funny thing. How it works, the details that work with it, even just looking into it a little bit, you have to see how complicated this whole concept of memory is. So I know this much. I know that story pretty much verbatim is the way the story has been as long as I can remember. I also know that before a fire that I had here in the apartment 10, 11 years ago, I had it all written down. So all those years, I'm rereading the same exact thing I wrote down shortly after the incident happened. I don't know what else to think, other than those two incidents opened up my mind to wanting to learn more. I spent the rest of my years reading, watching whatever I could on not only this subject of ghosts, but of any paranormal subject. If it was covered by a show like In Search of or Sightings, so many sci-fi shows back in the early days, I did things like that. I can't remember the titles of them all. So many magazines I've read, books on the subject. It was mind-boggling. It got to the point where I realized I had to start trimming down what I was intaking. And although there's no way for me to prove or disprove what any individual says or believes in, by the time I was in high school, I was already moving away from what the normals, individuals like me, right? What some schmuck, let's be honest, was saying happened to him or her. Okay, it might have happened. I'm not calling you a liar. But I would rather hear from these incidences from individuals who kind of know what they're talking about, maybe scientifically or through some sort of experience and training, like military or something. I need that information. And it was around that time, actually, that the movie Ghostbusters came out. And I tie this two together because this is how I remember when the book came out. No, not the Ghostbusters book, but it was around the same time as the Ghostbusters movie, maybe just prior or right after, but in that circa Ghostbusters. There was a book by Professor Lloyd Auerbach called Parapsychology, and the book went into detail about the science, just like Ray speaks about in the original movie, the actual science of parapsychology. And from there, I started that path, which quickly got me to Duke University and Dr. Ryan and his ESP work, which is to this day absolutely amazing. It got me to Dr. Gertrude Schmiegler of NYU and her amazing work that she did, and the test that, as far as I know, that still gets reproduced with amazing, unbelievable results. These are the things that I really wanted to focus on, and I spent pretty much the rest of my life doing. Again, I'm not trying to dismiss what a non-scientist is saying, but it's like they don't know what they're saying. I don't know what I'm saying. I study what other people who are a lot more intelligent than me and who have done actual field and in tests, right, laboratory tests. They've done both and have come to certain conclusions. That has more weight, is the way I always figured it. Now this path I was on was a bit of a dream, actually, from childhood, because I spent so much time watching shows like In Search Of. I wanted to be, when I grew up, I wanted to be one of those individuals. I wanted to be someone that goes monster hunting, right, for Bigfoot and for ghosts and for aliens. I thought that was exciting. I thought it was exciting, and I also thought it was intellectual, because you're trying to find answers in your very, Indiana Jones sort of way, I guess. And I did get lucky enough to do that. So it might get touched on in some of the videos with Tim and Tom, because they were a part of this as well. But I spent about almost 10 years as a paranormal investigator. Me, Tim, and Tom, with a few others at the time, it was a little bit shifting team, but the three of us with core, right, were part of the MIST Society. Metaphysical Investigation, Search, and Test Society. And that's what we wanted to do, is we wanted to search and test out these paranormal and metanormal, metaphysical sort of occurrences. I saw us as a modern-day Charles Fort, is the way I kind of saw us, going out and looking for and studying any phenomenon that we could. Everything that came our way was ghost-related, but we were open to anything. We studied, between me and Tom and Tim. We had a vast amount of knowledge on different paranormal subjects. And a lot of it came from, at least from my point of view, and they can say whatever they want to say if this comes up with them in their segments. But I looked at everything the way, as a layman, as best as a layman could. I always tried to examine things the way someone like a Dr. Ryan would do it if this was the Duke University paranormal parapsychology department. That's the way I wanted to approach everything. Not this damn television, internet, ghost hunting phenomenon that's been going on for the last 15 years or so. No, I wanted to remove ourselves from them, which is why we didn't have the name ghost hunting or paranormal anywhere in our group's title. That's why I wanted to stay away from using those words. But we got on to quite a few little adventures, and let me tell you right now, with one exception. Any famous, semi-famous place that we investigated or were invited to be a part of another group's investigation all turned out to be duds. Really, the only place of any age and name that we had any luck on was upstate New York, in Carmel, New York. There's a place that is really hot with paranormal investigators, and we found on a flub called Smalley Inn. Smalley Inn was our second stop that night. We were actually at a convent, an old closed-down convent. We had permission to go to and investigate, and nothing of note came. I think there was a few tapping sounds that we couldn't answer, but what the hell are we going to do with tapping sounds? That's nothing. So, well, I knew it was going to be a short night, and I looked into another place, and I discovered Smalley Inn. And the owner was really happy to find out another paranormal team wanted to come in. Apparently, we were some of his favorite individuals. You paranormals! That's what he was calling us. You paranormals. And we got access to the first floor and the basement. And the basement is where a couple of really weird things happened. First of all, with the digital camera that I was using, I'll point it at a spot, and I won't just take one picture. I'll take at least 3 in as fast succession, that I can. And the reason I do this is so I can compare as best I can as closely timed photos of the same exact spot. To look for differences, no matter how nuanced they may be. Now, with the digital camera, and especially in the dark with the flash on, there was something very interesting that I noticed. So you're looking at the image on the camera, the back of the camera, as you're taking the picture. And with the flash on, it makes the light, and you can see the light, the flash on the screen, and then, and this is all within a second, and then it clicks the shot and the light's gone, right? Now, the weird thing was, every time the light went on, there was a dude in a long black jacket and a black hat standing against the wall next to a ladder. But then it takes the picture, and there's no one there. So I called Tim and Tom over. We had a couple of other individuals with us. And I'm like, look, because I did it a second time and it happened again. So I called everyone over, and we're looking at the damn thing, and we're watching as the camera, the flash, boom, you could see the shadow. And it wasn't me, because there was no backlighting. The flash is coming from in front of me and Tom and Tim. Everything else behind us is dark in the basement. And every single time, boom, there's a man in black, all shadowed out, with a dark hat, a brimmed dark hat. But you look at the picture, and it's just a ladder. But there, right there on the camera screen, as the light goes on, that 1 second, that half a second, that tick, whatever amount of short time that is, with the light and then the camera taking the click, you could see him on the damn screen, just standing there. I mean, it would have been really creepy. It would have been a great horror movie scene if it was like in between everyone, he's getting closer and closer and closer and closer. I mean, that would have been creepy as all hell. But no, he's just, I wish I could tell you that. But no, he was just standing there. I don't know, maybe that's creepy to you as well. Now, there's another incident that happened at Smalley Inn with a child's ball. Because one of the stories is that in the basement is the ghost of a small child from like the 1800s, late 1800s, I think it was. So we decided to bring some toys, some dolls, stuffed animals, things like that, and a ball. Now, this ball that we got at like Best Buy or Target, or probably like Walgreens or somewhere like that, was a plastic ball, a rubber ball, I guess, rubber, plastic, probably rubber. I'm trying to remember, but the key point of this was it was a little weighted on each side. It was just a little bit weighted, so when it rolled, it kind of had this tilting, kind of awkward motion. So we're in Smalley Inn's basement, and I placed the ball right down on a weighted end, so it's just sitting there. And we get everything ready for the shot, for the shoot. We're filming. We're doing EVPs. We're asking questions, and we're not even thinking of this damn ball. I mean, we sweep down. We take in the pictures a couple of times, but we're not really thinking about it because we're thinking more of EVP, and let's keep our eye out for like movement or winds that breezes we can't account for, anything weird. But we weren't thinking so much of the ball until we heard it. We heard it, pa, 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 pa. like someone kind of dropped it with a little bit of forward momentum. So all the cameras, the lights all go down the floor. And there it is, about a foot, maybe foot and a half from its original location. And we can see that it's just stopping. It didn't roll. This is the point. It didn't just roll because of the weighted side. It bounced. It bounced several times on completely flat floor. Tom puts it back and then walks past it. It doesn't move. Runs past it. It doesn't move. He, with 1 foot on each side of the ball, he jumps and pounds his feet into the ground. It doesn't move. Finally, the only thing we do to get this damn ball to move is we actually physically have to touch it. So freaking weird. So freaking weird. Another thing I want to tell you about was it's been closed for the last several years. I think right around the COVID time it closed. But on Long Island, there was a horse stable and trail. And because the family friends of the owners knew us, and she'd worked with us a few times and come out in the field with us a few times, she contacts us one day, Robin, she contacts us and tells us that a hand had passed away that used to work there, and he's still being sighted. And weird things are happening, like they get there in the morning and on the horse trail, all the rocks and tree limbs have been pushed away. Someone's already done it, and there's nobody on the property. People have actually seen him after he passed with the horses. So we were there 3 or 4 times. It was the one place we kept going back to because weird shit kept happening. I'm telling you, we go to famous places, nothing happens. We go to some place that's not famous, no matter how locally famous. I don't know, the place might have been. People might have loved that place for years, but it still wasn't famous. You know? That's where the weird shit happens. And the weirdest thing, let me just jump into the 2 weirdest things that happened here. Because I don't know if they're going to bring anything up, if anything has to do with this place. But it'll also be nice if they have their perspective of it. But I'm not going to force the hand. So the 2 weirdest things that happened was, one was the radio. So we were in an H stable. Myself and, who was it? We had it was me, I think it was me, Tim, and I can't remember who else. There was a 3rd one in there with us, at least a 3rd one in there with us. And I brought enough people. We had like 9 with us. So we were in groups of 3 because the horse place was so huge. And we had 2 of us, 2 teams just checking out the stables, staying as far away as we could, this stable and that stable, and changing it up, while the other team takes the trail. And then we change it up because we had time. So we changed it up after that, and someone else takes the trail. That's the way we were doing it. So we're in the H stable, and all of a sudden during an EVP session, now we've had trouble in this H stable before, with the horses going crazy for no reason when certain questions were asked. But what's even weirder that I want to point out here was we all of a sudden heard a radio playing. Now this is about 2:30 in the morning. The property is empty. We are the only ones on the property. Okay, you can say as far as we knew. That's fair enough. Now, all of a sudden, this radio starts playing, and it's playing in the immediate stables next to ours. So we're out that door in a moment. We hear that radio. We notice it's coming from the other stable. We moved. There's no question. There's no standing around. Oh, you hear something? What should we do? We moved to it. And we get in there, there's an old style boom box, like an 80s style boom box that's in the horse stable, and it's plugged in and it's playing. It's on a station and it's just playing. It's playing what sounded like mariachi music. And it's been so many years, I can't remember if the deceased individual, if that was a particular style of music that he listened to or not. I can't even remember at this point. But what was weird is we were trying to figure out, how did this turn on? Because we can see that the button is depressed to turn it on to play. We can see that it is plugged in. There was nothing for the entire hour and a half, maybe 2 hours that we had already been there. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and this is blasting. This is not a level that you would be playing in the stable with the horses. You would imagine it would be a lower, calmer level of music than blasting literally at full tilt. So looking at it, the first thing I'm thinking of is, well, maybe the cord was loose and gravity shift, or a horse kicked the wall or something, and that jostled. But that plug was tight. It was tight in on that wall. So like, well, maybe it was on and the volume was down, and no, there's no way you could have. The volume would have to be moved, just like the play button had to literally be played. Now, the last time that we were at the stables was the weirdest thing that happened to us. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. It was a really cool guy. We had a guest investigator from a Long Island team who was really good with audio stuff. And I didn't always like a lot of people in the field that I met, but he was a good individual. He was a good guy. I liked him. So I invited him to join us. So me, Tim, Tom, him, and a few others in the team. So I had 9 with us there. Whatever weird stuff happened that night, at this point, I can't even remember, because none of it matched up to what happened when we were packing stuff up to leave. The night, as far as I remember, was kind of dead, I think. But then as we were packing stuff up, we spot a shadow. Not just like, a shadow on a wall. No, we see a 3-dimensional shadow running in between 2 trucks. The big trucks they use to haul the horse trailers in. No horse trailers, just the 2 trucks. And there's a 3-dimensional shadow running between the 2 of them. Me, Tim, Tom, and the other guy just drop everything in our hands and we take the fuck off. Top speed at this thing, yelling at it. It disappears. Right in front of us. And then I think it was Tim yelled, "It's over here." And there it is, and then to the field off to the side of us, running away. And then it disappeared. And then it was over by the trucks again. And we're chasing it. And I'm right on its damn ass. And I'm not a runner. If you see me running, you better run too, because that means something carnivorous is behind me. But no, I'm running my ass off after this thing. And then something really weird happens. It's probably about no more than 10 feet in front of me. And it's not zipping any faster to get any further away from me. And then suddenly, as I'm on its ass, I hear the clanking of metal. So there was a chain fence that was on the floor, on the ground. There's no floor there, on the ground. And when I went running over it, you could hear the sound of my big ass running over a chain fence. But 10 feet in front of me, that didn't happen. It made no sound as it went over that same damn area that I was at. And then it was gone again. And that was it. We didn't see it again. But that was our encounter with a shadow person, or shadow thing, or shadow ghost, or whatever. We don't know. But again, like the thing I saw when I was a kid with my dog, it had no features whatsoever. It was literally just a shadow. Now, in most cases, individuals talk about glowing eyes, usually white or red. I didn't see any damn glowing eyes. Nothing. All I saw was literally a blackened silhouette. Head, shoulders, torso, legs, feet, hands. No other details in the shape to define those parts of its body. And then it was gone. There's been a lot of weird stuff in my life, and I've chased some of it down that I could. I got my own answers to this, tied up with what I actually believe life is. But we're not going to get into that one right now. That'll be another episode. But those are some of the weird things from the beginning of my life to not that long ago in my life that have all been weirdly happening to me. By far, that's not all. What are some weird things in your life that border on or fully are just completely paranormal? What's up with that? What happened to you? I want to know. All right, so we'll be back next week, and it'll be Tom and Tim, or Tim and Tom. I'm not sure the order. Let's find out. All right, but until then, I hope everything in your life is absolutely awesome.